So this lesson is on a triplet groove, which is a pretty cool, fun groove. It's reminiscent of, what's that song? It's a Tom Petty song. I think it's a Tom Petty song. Breakdown. Breakdown. Da-da-da. I mean, the beat that they play there in that song is different than this, but the kick and the snare pattern are very similar. Here's what it sounds like. Let me just mute my mic so I don't kill everything. There we go. So that's the basic groove, and this is what it looks like here. What I was playing was this here, the actual triplet version. Actually, what I was playing was the taking it up a notch, this part here. But to get there, we have to go back here. And so what I've got written out here is written out as eighth notes. And a lot of the times people will write a beat out like this if there's no grace notes. The grace notes are like the lower notes in between sort of the fancy stuff that I was playing before. But if they were playing a beat more like this, that beat there is this one here written out as eighth notes. And what they typically say will play them shuffled, which means take the eighth note rhythm and actually, it's written out as eighth notes as opposed to triplets like this, because it's easier to read. So in this case here, we have them written out as actual triplets. If I were to read it as a shuffled rhythm, this would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and just basic eighth notes. And instead of counting them as straight eighth notes, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and you count them as shuffled. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Yeah. All right? Now, the tricky part with that is you're counting 1 and 2 and 3. The distance between 1 and when you're counting eighth notes is 1 and 2 and. The and is halfway in between. When I look here, between the count of 1 and 2, the eighth note is halfway in between, which is easy to sort of figure out in your brain. You could just play 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And you just put the ands halfway in between the quarter notes. Piece of cake. But when you're dealing with shuffles, what winds up happening is this note, this and, 1 and 2 and 3, is a triplet. And you're counting it as an and to keep it more organized in your brain. But really, you're trying to play this let of one triplet. And so a shuffle is the first and last of a set of triplets. So if I do the old mouse play thing, what we see here with the actual triplets, is we've got the same number of notes. We've got 2 notes here and we have 2 notes here. But what's happening here is there's an extra eighth note triplet rest in between them that you've got to keep track of. So you get 1 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. And so this first and last of the set of triplets is 1 triplet. This is the shuffled rhythm that you could see written out as eighth note and just say shuffled. So you're actually playing this, and you've got to keep track of this trip in between here, but you're just seeing this and that. So what's happening here with the triplets is you've got 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. You've actually got 12 counts, 3 per quarter note, that you're keeping track of instead of just the eighth notes of 1 and 2 and. And so this note here, this 1 and 2 and, is actually the let of 1 triplet, if that makes any sense. 1 triplet, 2 triplet. So you've got to count triplets first. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. That has to be really ingrained. And then what you want to do is you want to count out loud and play the first and the last of a set of triplets. 1 triplet. So on the 1 and the let. And the best way to count it is 1 trip. Make sure the trip is really short, and then let. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. And so that's what you're actually playing when you're doing this kind of thing. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. And so these trips are the eighth note triplet rests that we're not playing on. And then, so this is your hi-hat line, the top line that goes all the way across. And then this is your snare drum line. And the snare drum is going to play on the count of 2 and 4. Right? And so you're going to get 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. All right? And then on the bass drum is going to play on the count of 1 and the let of 2. If you were looking at this one, the shuffled rhythm, it'd be 1 and the and. But remember, this and is actually the let. So you can see you wouldn't play on 2 or the trip, but you would play on the let. And then that's for the first bar. So let's just do the first bar first. So you're going to get a 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. And then gradually increase your speed. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. Right? And then the second bar is the exact same as the first, but there's an extra bass drum on the let of 4. So this one goes bo, ga, go, ga, bo, gat, go, gat, go, go, back, do, gat, go, gat, go, gat, go, go. And so when I'm saying that, I'm counting all the triplets in my head. That's what you should aspire to do as well, is have that bo, gak, go, like have all the subdivisions going on in your head. Playing wise, that'd be bo, go, gak, go, do, gat, go, do, gat, go, do, gat, go. It's kind of hard to do without counting all the triplets. All right, so on the second bar, I'll play this second bar here, and it goes a 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, triplet. Right? And so what I'm doing is I'm just repeating that bar, but what I was playing was a 2-bar pattern, which makes it kind of funky and kind of cool. So you start with the first bar here, and then go to the second bar there. And together, that would sound like this. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. All right, so let's try that with some sticks and play it a little quicker. I'll just mute my mic here. All right, so as you can see, what happened right there is as you change the tempo, the kind of feel and the groove of it switched. When you play it slower, it's kind of groovier and slinkier, and as you go faster, it changes as you go through the different tempos. And so that's just a basic stock kind of thing, and we're not doing any accents, we're not adding any grace notes. What I've got going on down here is taking it up a notch, which means we're going to add in the extra grace notes in between. And so those little spaces that we had here, these trips right here, we're going to put notes on them, like we have here. And so the best way to sort of show that is just to play straight triplets on the snare drum. And we're going to change our sticking to right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left, right. So it's going to be like this. Right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left, right. I'll go even slower. Right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left. That would be a whole bar of the triplets. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. And then we'll move our right hand to the hi-hat. Right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left, right. Or 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. All right? And so given that, that's what we're playing on our snare drum. And that really defines the shuffle pattern. Like if I pull my right hand away. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. Sorry, pull my left hand away. All right, and so you want to have that down really solid first. And then now what we're going to do is when you get to the count of 2 and the count of 4, you're going to play both hands together. I put this on the floor tom line, but really it's supposed to be both, one on the hi-hat and one on the snare, or both on the snare. So that would be right, left, right, both, left, right, right, left, right, both, left, right. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. And so you also want to play louder with the right hand than the left. One triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. And this is where it gets kind of confusing in your brain and stuff because you hear all this weird stuff going on. So let's try it really, really slow. Right, left, right, both, left, right, right, left, right, both, left, right, right, left, right, both, left, right, right, left, right, both, left, right. Then you can put your right hand on the hi-hat. One triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. Right? right, so you get the idea of that. So first you want to have it really solid on the snare. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, and then put your right hand on the hi-hat. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 1 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. I messed it up at the end. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. So you can hear distinctly that shuffle rhythm going. And then those triplet grace notes that really help shape the pattern. And then what you want to do is when it goes on the hi-hat, your hi-hat is playing the shuffle rhythm, and those little grace notes are the little notes here, and they just go in between. So this is going to be 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. Try it a little louder here. All right, and so the last thing is actually the accents here. You could play this straight with no accents, or these little alligator mouths on top of the hi-hat mean to play louder. And so on the quarter notes, I'm accenting. So I would be, for the hi-hat, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet. So on the numbers, I'm playing louder. And the way I do that is I dig into the edge on the numbers. On the lets, I'm playing on the top. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. Or I might actually dig in just quieter, depending on what's going on. Right, you get the idea of that. That's still going. And so it would sound a little bit different with no accents. So here's the same thing with no accents. I'll do a couple bars with no accents and a couple bars with accent. And you can really shape the kind of vibe and feel that you want with it. Oh, I forgot to actually turn my mic off. I'll have to mute that in the editing. So there you go. When you're doing all these subtleties, it kind of changes the feel and whatnot. But I like this beat. It's a cool beat. You should learn it. And take it step by step. So, you know, when I just wrote it out like this, the shuffled rhythm to begin with, just so sometimes you'll see that rhythm written out and they'll say shuffled. Just an explanation of the difference between it written out as eighth notes and written out as triplets. When they say shuffled, they mean take these eighth notes and interpret them as triplets. And yeah, if you take it stepwise very slowly through all the different sections, you'll be able to get to the point where you're playing this like a boss. All right, so have a good one. Have fun with that. Leafs lost last night, but there's always tomorrow. All right, see you guys later. Bye-bye.